Let's drop the green flag on this episode of the Talent Tank Podcast with your host, Wyatt Pemberton, bringing you the best, fastest, most knowledgeable personalities in Ultra 4 and off-road racing.
All right. Here we go. The Talent Tank back in session. I'm glad you guys tuned in. I'm glad you guys have this podcast up. I'm glad you guys are fans, subscribers, all that you left great feedback for me. But yeah, man, here we go. This week, Bailey Cole. Bailey, gosh, man. Oh my gosh. So Bailey will be the first, father-son duo. This is Dave Cole's son, Bailey. But Bailey's a grown man. He's his own man. That's what we're going to talk about today. Bailey, welcome to the Talent Tank.
Thank you very much for having me out here today. I appreciate it.
Well, additionally, Bailey is the driver of the 4454. You just came off a top 5 finish at Moab.
Yes, we did finish 5th at Moab. It was a pretty hard fought race with everything going into it, but it all worked out at the end.
And I believe you finished 4th at King of the Hammers this year in 4400, right?
Yes, sir.
Immediately behind the drama.
Yes, immediately behind it.
Immediately behind all the timing drama. Wow, yeah, that was something else. So that would tell me that you're probably sitting pretty good in the national points race, and I didn't look those up. Are you?
Yep. Right now I'm sitting 3rd, I believe. Tied for 3rd.
Tied for 3rd. Oh, who are you tied with?
Raul, I believe.
Oh, Gomez. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hot and contested battle space right there. All right, man. Well,
right behind those 2 Miller guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that's you got to say those pro chassis get it done. Plus, they've got 2 really good pilots behind the wheel.
No, they're pretty impressive and pretty fun to race against.
And constantly being chased down. And that's the IFS versus the solid axle battle, right?
100%.
And so you and Raul are really the guys in the IFS cars playing second fiddle. Right now, yeah. You've had lots of race time in solid axles, and you grew up in solid axles, so.
Yeah, no, I actually almost prefer the solid axles in some ways, but right now IFS car seems the faster way to go, and in one of them right now.
Well, so yeah, you're certainly growing into it. How many races do you have under your belt in an IFS car now? It's not a ton.
Just this season. So Hammers, then the next race was Crandon and Moab.
Yeah. And Crandon.
So 3 races.
Yeah. Well, Crandon's a great segue. Wouldn't I be glad you brought that up on your own?
Yeah.
So guys, I'm going to have to add the link to the show notes or somewhere. I don't know how to do it. We'll figure it out, but it's floating everywhere.
It wasn't floating. It was definitely sinking.
It was definitely sinking. Well, first and foremost, before I dive into this, I am glad I'm able to sit here and have a conversation with you on the show and talk about this and talk about what this equaled and how this happened. But because it could have gone the other way, you could have drowned. And what we're talking about is Bailey took the 4454 at Crandon, Wisconsin. It was a no points race. It was we're going to go race Crandon because Crandon is cool as hell. and we're going to see how many of us can back it into a corner and come out. But Crandon was a night race.
Yes, sir. And
with night race, and they watered the crap out of the track, but there's still some dust. There's, lap traffic. I mean, there's traffic on the course. I think there was even, as I saw the video, maybe there was even Crandon track traffic somewhere in there with some lights flashing, and you went to pass around a track truck that was doing some sort of work, and you just stayed wooded, and you were off to the left side of the course by, how far would you say, 25 feet, 20 feet? Wasn't very far.
20 feet or so. Yeah. And so that section was actually a bridge, and the Crandon worker was parked right on the apex of the corner. And I didn't quite realize that until the next thing I saw was water, and they were going to help out Ironman Racing.
And so the way that went down, you went to pass him, you stayed wooded, you didn't make it, you just stayed matted, and you should have shifted to the right. And next thing you know, you're not swimming. You got a wall of water. You were met by a wall of water. How did that initial slowdown feel? What went through your brain in that initial second before you got wet?
So I was going and it was pretty dusty. It was kind of hard to see. And even the video doesn't really give it quite as much justice, but going, and then all of a sudden the dust cleared and all I saw was water. And I was like, well, this sucks. And then hit the water, and I thought it was going to be 2-3 feet, and I thought it was going to sink the car, but not sink me. And I hit it, and the water came up and around and literally hit me from all three directions, both on the side of the head and forward, just a wall.
Well, the in-car video that you had, which, man, amazing, great in-car video of this, it looked like Moses parted the sea, because your hood split the pond in half, and you got a split second as your headlights went under. You got this white wall, 2 white walls of water as they split where the hood blocked and threw up a wake, and then it just goes black.
Yeah, that was pretty much my view of the whole thing.
Now, was your visor up and you got it in the face, or do you have visor down?
Nope, visor was up because coming up over that hill, when we went back in the back area, I would flip my visor up just so I could get that little more visibility through the rocks and the tight twisties of the trees. So went visor up there and got a face full of water. So
folks, as you're listening, we're 5-point harnessed into a 5,200, 5,400 pound race car. Probably race weight at Crandon was probably around 5,000, maybe a little bit under. You probably didn't.
Yeah, we got it nice and light. So right around 5.
Yeah. So around 5,000 pounds. So you're 5-point harnessed into this car, 800 and some horsepower, helmet on, you get plunged and dunked in water. Luckily you're still up. You didn't roll and you're not upside down.
Yep.
Window nets and steering wheel, and it's pitch black outside. It's dark. And how did your mind process those next steps of, crap, I need to get out of this car, and how do I get out without freaking out?
So the way that I thought about it, even when it happened, was just, this is an unfortunate situation, but I've trained for this. I've gotten out of the car blindfolded before and done time tests and make sure I could do it. Just most of the time I thought it'd be because of fire, but this time was water. And just kept myself calm and said, there's no point in getting frazzled right now. It's just going to make the situation worse. So went, unbuckled the seatbelt, and I kind of jiggled them loose just because you know how sometimes they get stuck if you just yank. So got them all broken loose, got all 5 harnesses off of me. And then I remember trying to go through the windshield just to get out faster. Except we had rock guards because it was the short course race. So we did the Crandon rock guards. So
even worse.
Bonked my head off the rock guard. Was like, well, not going out through there, sat back in the seat, and then undid the window net and then swam up to the surface.
And what was visibility? Was there some visibility, or were you pitch blacked?
Under the water, pitch black.
Oh God. That's like worst nightmare stuff right there.
It was a little sketchy.
What would you take now? Would you take that scenario or same scenario above water, daytime, but on fire?
I think I'd be on fire.
That says a lot. Wow, man. It could have gone the other way. So glad you're here.
One little funny story that didn't talk about earlier, but there was a time that I was pre-running the Baja 500 with JT and my dad in a 4-seat Razor. And it was the year that it was 130 degrees down on Diablo, the one that crazy heat
lake bed
waves. And we didn't have enough fuel in the 4-seat Razor to make our section pre-running. So we put 2 5-gallon cans in the back of the UTV. And when we left Ensenada, it was 65 degrees. And then as we got moving, it heated up. And they
swell up. They swell up too. Yeah.
So about an hour and a half into our pre-run, my dad smelled some fuel. I was like, okay. And him and JT asked me to turn around and look back what was there. And I look around, and coming over my shoulder, and I'm in the backseat of the Razor. So coming over my shoulder and engulfing me at this point is a wall of flame, probably 6 to 7 feet high.
How did you guys get out of that?
So my reaction was, hey guys, we're on fire. And that was a little bit of a panic for a second. And unbuckle and get out. And it was actually a very cold flame because it was the vapors. And my dad reached in, grabbed the fuel, and threw it out of the back of the car.
I mean, if you're going to, I guess, be on fire with people, then, yeah, your dad and JT Taylor would be two people I'd be cool with having that problem with.
They were pretty good people to be around for that. And I was in the back seat still doing low altitude airdrops with the water bottles in the back seat, and JT was throwing sand on it. And we actually finished that pre-run that day.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, man, those are two just completely mind-boggling stories that you actually have been on fire at one point, but the drowning, I think the drowning is the worst. I don't know, man. I think going into water is one thing, but going into water in the dark, man, I think I don't know, man. I think we're all blessed that you swim out of there, because an Ultra 4 car, a race car is, I mean, it's kind of a maze trying to get out to begin with. They're
not always the easiest things to get out of.
Get the steering wheel off. That is funny that you got the rock guard, having that on. Wow. That'd be a problem. Can you fit through the windshield of your car with if you hadn't had the rock guard?
I believe so. I know the old car I could, and I believe the new car is pretty similar. I didn't test getting out the windshield though. So might have been a good thing the rock guard was there, and I just sat back and got out the window.
Yeah, you'll have to try it out and let us know how that worked out and be like, yep, no, I would have got stuck and then I would have drowned. Oh, man. Well, so here we go. We've got Bailey Cole on. We just went through two kind of crazy life-changing stories there. Like, lucky to still be alive, lucky to be still on this side of the dirt. Growing up, couple things. One, you're from New Jersey.
Born in Jersey. Yep.
And if anyone listened to your father's episode, at some point he moved you guys to Southern California. You moved to Temecula, or at least ended up in Temecula, but you going to high school all the way through high school at Temecula, right?
No. So when we moved out there, we actually moved to Big Bear up in the mountains in California, and then moved to Ontario. And I went to school in like Rancho Cucamonga area all through school.
See, I don't know that part of the world at all. I know where Menifee is because I've been to Wayne's and I've been to Jeff Knowles.
Yeah. So probably like an hour north of there.
Okay.
Hour and a half north. Yep.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, I mean, I've flown into Ontario.
Yeah.
That counts, right?
Right there.
That totally
counts. Was 10 minutes away from my house.
How far are you from Cartech?
Probably half an hour.
Okay. Hey, that's a great place to be. I'm only like 24 hours from them. So. But
nice short little hustle.
But today you reside in Flagstaff, Arizona.
I do.
Which beautiful weather, beautiful country, and you're going to college there, right?
Yep. Actually, one of the reasons I came up here was because I missed like the mountains and woods of Big Bear and just kind of that environment. So that's one of the reasons I chose to come up to Flag and going to school up at Northern Arizona University.
Nice. Well, that is certainly something we're going to talk about here in a little bit. You lived with growing up. You grew up with your stepmom Luan.
Yep.
And I know her through your dad, but we went sailing together. We shared a catamaran in the where did we sail? The Windward Islands. I think that was the trip we were on. It was great, man. Your dad and your stepmom swimming machines. I mean, they put on flippers and would just be gone, like snorkeling everywhere we stopped in the water. Just totally, it was a good time with them. I really like them. Both of them, by the way.
We used to go down to Mexico all the time, like Acapulco. And yeah, I could definitely see that.
Right. And then you actually have two younger siblings. You're the oldest.
Yep. Allison and Patrick.
How much older are you than them?
I'm 8 or 9, I think 9 years older than my little sister, Allison, and 11 years older than Patrick.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, man. And so you're right. Where are you 21 yet?
23 now.
23. God, I'm way off. Time when you get as old as me, Bailey, time just you tell it in like decades. Like, I mean, I look at you and I knew you were young, and I don't ask you for your birthday. I really should. I should be like, okay, give me a copy of your driver's license.
Honestly, there are times where I can't even remember my birthday, so that's fair.
Fair enough. I feel like God, man, Wyatt's a jackass. So, okay, you're in college, but I always kind of like to ask this question. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Man, honestly, I've always kind of wanted to do something in the off-road industry. I never really knew what that would be, just something in the industry.
And now you're a, top tier Ultra4 off-road driver. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
I definitely do not complain at all. I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world. And
balancing that with school is gotta be just one of the hardest things to do, right?
It can be challenging at points, balancing, being able to go out to all the races and all the testing and all the time that takes to put in, and then telling the teachers, I'm going to be gone and I would really like to do the work ahead of time. But like for Hammers, I had to talk to a couple teachers and was like, I'm going to be gone and I really hope that we can work something out. But at this point, I have to go no matter what.
Yeah, so, right.
Balancing all of that.
So yeah, growing up as a kid, did you play any sports? Were you into any sports like that? What were your interests as a kid? I know you guys wheeled all the time. So
my mom lived down in Ontario. My dad still lived up in Big Bear, and the weekdays was down going to school down there, and weekends I was up with my dad, and it was a lot of soccer, baseball, did some field hockey, kind of bounced around a whole bunch of different sports. My dad actually coached a lot of the teams.
Well, because I know that's big for him and your uncle. Like, they are sports guys. Like, so
100%. And I enjoyed the team parts and enjoyed playing the sports, but I was never really super good at any of them.
You required a motor.
Yes. Yeah. The motor definitely helps.
So I actually heard this recently on an interview with Travis Pastrana, and that's exactly what Pastrana said. Pastrana said as a kid, he was okay. His parents made him play sports, but it wasn't until he discovered a dirt bike and what he was capable of with motor assist that he began to really feel like himself. And he enjoyed sports, but he didn't love them. It wasn't until, again, motor assist, he's like, okay, now I'm who I'm supposed to be.
The funny thing about that, even when I started with the motorsports, I was really nervous to do it and really didn't feel like I was that good. And just after enough practice, got there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, practice makes perfect, right? And there's some good stories there as we get into your early years of off-roading. Do you have any interest outside of off-road right now?
Right now, with COVID, it's been pretty hard to do anything, but yeah, we have a couple hikes up in Flagstaff that are pretty nice. And I enjoy rock climbing a lot, but everything's been kind of closed to do that. So
you're living in Flagstaff, you're going to college. You're not married. You don't have kids, but you do have a very serious girlfriend who is a huge integral part of your program.
She is. Yep. Mackenzie. She does a ton around here. She recently has helped me write emails to a lot of my sponsors and help me take care of that way. I do a lot of the base writing, and then she makes me sound more professional and eloquent.
She polishes it.
Yeah. She polishes it. Yeah. I get all the ideas down, and she's like, no to this idea, yes to here. And it kind of helps me along the lines there.
You are so blessed by that. I mean, I've now talked to Mackenzie on the phone with you. And then, we're on Facebook together, and actually she just came out the door behind you. She's walking by you. Hi, Mackenzie.
Wyatt says hi.
Hi, Wyatt.
There we go. Everybody just heard that.
We live in 400 square feet. So it's, this is the office right now, and also the kitchen and bedroom.
Yeah, there you go. Well, for one, that's college living. Two, that's, young adulthood right there. And man, I think part of me is envious of that life because there's so much less responsibility, and you do what you do, but yeah. So Mackenzie, she makes it to all your races. She's at the Hammers.
She actually hasn't missed a race yet since we started dating.
I heard that's probably going to happen though at nationals though. She's going to miss Oklahoma here in a few weeks, right?
So she actually talked to her professors and got out of clinicals for a week, and is making it happen to come out.
Yay! All right. Tell her, Mackenzie, when you hear this, okay, you got to find me. We're going to meet. I'm excited about that, because any woman that sticks with any of us for enough years and they get into the off-road and what goes on and the characters and truly this family, they're special people, right? They're cut from like this, like saint's cloth.
100%. Yep.
So how did you guys meet?
Actually met in the math lab up here at school, up at NAU.
Okay.
I was in there doing my class and she was in doing statistics, and I could actually tell she was struggling a little bit. And I walked over and said I could help. And I'm awful at statistics, but it got me her number, and then we started talking, and one thing led to another, and it all worked out.
And y'all have been together about 2 years, right?
Yep. Actually, next month, 2 years.
Was she kind of already outdoorsy and into off-road stuff, or was that an easy conversion, or has this been a difficult conversion?
So she grew up a desert rat like me. 100%.
Oh, nice. No wonder you guys have so much in common.
Her dad races in a Class 5 unlimited car. So grew up out, and she rode dirt bikes as a kid, quads as a kid, just grew out in the desert.
So is she a better driver than you?
I mean, probably.
Because I'll tell you, in my household, my wife, she doesn't listen to this, so she won't hear it to brag. She stopped listening, I think, 30 episodes ago. My wife is a better driver in forward. If she's in drive, she's faster, better, cleaner, I think. But if you have to do anything else outside of that, if she has to stop and back up, we're all screwed. Like,
then the world's over.
Oh yeah. We're wrecking. That's it. That's it. Reverse does not happen. But forward, yeah, man, as fast as she goes. Now, is Mackenzie a Toyota girl?
Well, she has a Corolla.
Does kind of count? No, not really. But
I mean, probably not doing hot laps of Chocolate Thunder in the Corolla, but
yet.
Just a couple modifications and it'll work out.
Nice. So, man, that is awesome. That one.
But she just said she could probably do it. I just couldn't.
I'm going to back her up on that. I'm not a dissenting opinion of that. I have no doubt. If a woman says she's going to do it, damn it, she's going to do it. I'm with her. In February, Mackenzie, we got a day, 30 pack, and we'll cheer you on. I bet we can even get Miles down there to announce it, and you just bang it off the rev limiter. Okay. Oh man. Awesome. So there you are, Northern Arizona, and you're studying business marketing. How much do you have left?
2 semesters left. So just a little bit less than a year.
So you're about to have to do some adulting.
Yes. Here coming pretty soon.
Do you have some ideas where you want to go with that? Do you think, I mean, I can personally see you staying in the off-road world, but do you have some ideas or avenues or venues where you think you fit in?
I don't have anything set up yet, but I definitely like to stay in the off-road world.
What about Heir to the Throne? And I don't mean the scepter. I mean,
that's definitely been talked about a lot and definitely in the cards.
Yeah. Yep. So is your dad grooming you a little? He always has. He's been grooming you since day one. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan came in recently.
Yeah.
And
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas is coming in for that at the time being, but in the future, I think all doors are open.
Yeah. I can completely believe that, all options are on the table. Plus there's some pretty awesome companies out there that would love to have, somebody with, at this point you're 23 years old and you've got 20 years of off-road experience, and you've got, almost 10 years of racing experience. So that's hard to get that to be your age representing your demographic of age group and to have that kind of knowledge. Cause I think at some point, and I'm going to get totally off on a tangent here. I think at this point where we're going with racing and land use and open access, all those things are going to fall on your generation. I mean, they're going to fall on you to be an advocate. And I'm not saying specifically you, but just, 20-year-olds to carry that torch as guys, get old and move on or pass away or whatever that equals. This gap, I think it feels like there's this gap between, 50 and 30-year-olds that really were never involved. It's like the old guys carrying the torch, and then we missed it. My generation missed it. There's a few of us out there, and not me. I'm not in that. I live in Texas. We have no public land, so it's like I'm by proxy cheering for what's going on out there. I'm cheering for keeping stuff open, but a lot of that stuff's going to fall on you guys to be the spokesperson and spokespeople. And I'm excited to see how you do it. I mean, I have full faith in you. I think a lot of people do. So anyway, I digress.
No, I remember even as a kid going to the FOJV meetings and writing letters with my dad and trying to keep all the land open. And I think that is so important.
As you start to write your resume, which I'm sure you've had to do for class, I'm sure you have it. I mean, I know you don't have like a current day job aside from, you race and you go to class. Going to class is a full-time job, but also what you do around Ultra4 and to operate on the level you're on. And no one can downplay that. No one can downplay the hours it takes to be on and on and on and on and to promote yourself and promote the sport and promote the races and get your car and the logistics and the scheduling. That's more than a full-time job.
It's become a lot of work, but 100% worth it.
Oh yeah, fully agree. I wish I could do it today. Right.
Goes back to me feeling like one of the luckiest people in this world.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're in a good spot. You have worked your ass off to earn that spot. And clearly it's not a matter of just, hey, yeah, my dad owns the series, so of course I'm going to race it. No, if that were the case, you wouldn't have finished 4th at KOH this year. That's an earned spot. You stood on your own 2 feet and you eked it out and grinded it out for 8 hours, and you earned each position. You earned each and every position that you passed and got to where you were at that finish line. You overcame so much adversity, and that's, Moab, same way, Rick and it, I'm not going to even bring that up, but you earned every drop of water that came in your helmet, right? That was on you. That's kind of where I stand on that. It's there's a point, and I ended up kind of there in my professional career. My dad opened the first door for me in Houston. I'm from Kansas. I'm from the same hometown as Miles. Miles, I actually had beers at Miles' house on Saturday night in Paola, Kansas, with a bunch of our friends up there. So I'm from a small town in Kansas, but my father moved to Houston in the late 90s. And then I followed him in the early 2000s, and he got me a job here in Houston at an energy company. He got the door open for me, but I walk through, and today I stand, on my own 2 feet in that world. That's how I look at you. I look at you as you're the prodigy of your father. Your father opened the door, but you've been the one who's standing on your own accord, right? Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to get to that point where I'm stepping out on my own 2 feet, and it's nice, but I definitely appreciate everything that my dad's done to get me here.
Absolutely. And that's the great thing about fathers and sons and fathers and daughters and mothers and sons and mothers. We want to tilt the playing field as far in favor of our children as possible. That's your legacy, right? That is your legacy. And I don't fault your dad one iota for how much he's tilted the playing field in your favor. But even that said, there's nothing he can do between the green flag and the checker flag.
I get less information than all the other racers for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, you need to go to JT. JT has information.
JT would just kick me.
Yes, he would. Oh man. So let's jump back to you growing up in Wheeling and like getting into it and being immersed, because you've been immersed in this. I want to call it an industry, but it's really not at the level that we're talking about. It's not an industry. It's a recreational lifestyle. So you've been immersed in the lifestyle your entire life. You growing up wheeling with your dad, and Dave had this beat up 4Runner, and y'all would sleep in the back of it. You go up there on the weekends to Big Bear, and then y'all would vanish out to the Hammers or Johnson Valley or anywhere around Big Bear and find. Tell us about those. Tell us about all that time and what you went through in that era as you kind of learned what it meant to be outside.
We used to wheel up in Big Bear a lot. And I remember pretty much every weekend, Saturday, we would leave our house, and it was probably a mile or two from the trails. And we just go out to the trails, and we'd wheel from 3 p.m. to about 3 a.m. And I would be asleep for most of that, probably.
Fair enough.
And I would wake up right about the time we'd be pulling into the Denny's parking lot, because that was one of the few things still open. So wake up after wheeling to Denny's. We'd eat some Denny's and then go home and go back to school for that week, and then do it all again the next weekend.
Would your dad let you drive, or at what age did you start driving off-road?
So definitely back in the 4Runner, he'd put me on his lap and cruise around. I don't remember doing many trails or anything like that. The first real experience I remember driving was in his Pro Mod car. And I remember him putting it in first gear and putting me on lower Big Johnson and just having me go and cruise.
And just low. I mean, could you touch the pedals?
Definitely not. No. And I don't even think I knew where like the kill switch was. So we're just cruising along at half a mile an hour.
And they knew you weren't going to get hurt. And that was wheeling with, you guys were out just wheeling with other 10 benders?
Yeah. Then it was the 10 benders. That was after we found the Hammers, and we're going out there every weekend instead of Deep Creek and Holcomb and those trails.
Now, were you guys the first father-son? I think your dad confirmed this, but I forget. Confirm the first father-son duo that's 10 benders together, or was that Rob Park and Krusty? Were they the first benders?
They would be the first.
They would be the first,
yeah.
And then you guys would be like the second.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's 2 generations of benders.
Yeah. No, growing up out there, we would get to the lake bed. My dad would unload the truck and then go and take off. And I'd be playing with my Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels on the lake bed, waiting for him to come back. And all the bender wives, everybody out there would always be like, come over, come eat some sandwiches and hang out. And then eventually my dad would either come back towing somebody or come back being towed, and again, do it all the next weekend.
And rinse, repeat. So at what point did you get your own ride? Because I'd seen you in a Samurai out at the Hammers before, and this is, of course, everyone knew that at some point you would be wheeling. Yeah, I mean, you would be racing. What the belief was, but you would wheel around Hammertown. I mean, don't get me wrong. I knew you were in the Samurai wheeling around the lake bed in Johnson Valley all year long, but the rest of us, we would only see you there that first week in February, and we knew, oh, there goes Bailey.
I believe that was my 10th birthday where I got the Samurai, and yeah, wheeled around the desert all around in that.
Because when were you born? You were born like 99 or 2000?
97.
97. I should be able to do math. That's crazy. Because it's 2020 minus 23. Okay, 1997. Again, this is me. This is Wyatt. This is how I roll. Just terrible at math. I'm not terrible at math. I just hadn't thought it through. So yeah, probably 2007, 2008. You end up with this little Samurai cruise around. That thing went everywhere. Now I'd heard a story about the Samurai where y'all ran it out of gas, or y'all wrecked it like all the way on the other side of the lake bed, and like you hit it and you came back. And what was the color around that? Throw in some facts.
So that one was at the edge of the lake bed, where all the really big bushes are, right at the edge of the lake bed, kind of over by Randy's turn track.
Yep.
Over at the edge of the lake bed. So I was just kind of tooling around over there, going over the bushes and stuff. And I came over one and bellied out on top of a bush, and I couldn't get it unstuck. So I took the keys and walked back to camp, then got some help from somebody over there and got it towed back off. But yeah, definitely got it stuck once or twice out there.
Hilarious. And then what was the story you told your dad about it?
I don't think I told him about that one. And same with I jumped the Samurai once and definitely went a little too big. And I tried to not tell him about that one either. And then about 2 weeks after that happened, it got posted up on Pirate as a Samurai trophy truck.
Oh, wow. Yeah, for sure. Uh-huh. Well, hey, yeah, there's a great segue right there. And I love jumping into this, but jumping cars at the Hammers at a young age. Your dad had this pretty sweet IFS car built by Kirby early on. You guys were testing kind of out there where if you're coming into Hammertown, it would be roughly where you pay the gate fee, right? And you and Ridgway, I believe Chris Ridgway was driving, and then at one point you guys switch places and you're going down into the wash and jumping out of the wash and carrying some distance.
So that isn't what happened with Ridgway. Where I jumped the Samurai was that same jump.
Okay.
And I believe we jumped over Randy's hood or JR's hood, somebody's back then hood. and Ridgway was driving. But then that same weekend so you go up and over a hill over towards Outer Limits.
Okay.
Towards the military base where the big whoops are down the backside of the hill.
That's a portion of MDR course right there, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
My dad was testing the car over there, and it was actually the same weekend I got the Samurai. So he was out testing, and then he said I could drive it once. And I got in, and when Ridgway was my passenger, and going down the hill and just kind of cruised and turned around and came back. And my dad said, okay, go faster now. And turned around and went down. And then when I turned around, Ridgway reached over, grabbed the bottom of the steering wheel and said, mat it. I matted it, and we did this flying pass where we were probably doing 55, 60 up that hill with Ridgway in the passenger seat steering and me just holding the gas. And yeah, and when my dad heard that story, he also wasn't impressed with us for that one either.
And you look out at everyone watching and just jaws on the ground like,
probably. Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, that was a fun car. Whatever happened to that? It went to Arkansas at one point, and then what was it? Stevens. Yeah. What was his first name?
JT Stevens, right?
JT Stevens. Yeah. And then he took it to Arkansas, and then it faded away.
He raced it for a while. He put some big trophy truck motor in it, and I think he actually did pretty decent in it for a while, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know he raced for a couple of years, and then I think the chassis just was getting tweaked over time. I mean, by that time it was a 8 or 9 year old car, and I think it ended up in the Off-Road Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Or
okay.
Something like that. I know it ended up somewhere.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I remember when Ridgway caught that thing on fire at Vegas to Reno and tried to burn us back up and all that. Yeah. Freaking Ridgway. Awesome. It didn't even get the car to your dad. I'm sure your dad was, I know your dad was wound up about that. I mean, cars can be replaced, Ridgways can't, but at the same time, it always sucks when the car doesn't get to you.
Yep. No, my dad had some good success in that car too. That was a fun car. Yeah, it was a fast car.
Absolutely was, man. So, We Rock, you also grew up kind of around the We Rock competition circuit. You had Wayne Israelson, you had your dad, you had a lot of guys in that area that were hitting We Rock, the crawling world, and very successful, very competitive. You grew up walking around those pits and walking around those courses. Probably walked. How many miles of course do you think you walked? All of it?
Yeah, pretty much anywhere my dad walked throughout all those events, I walked too. And it was a blast. It was a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. All over the country, man. Yeah. That was when the endurance off-road had really, the endurance rock sports, they were not even in the infancy. It was just, crawling is for babies, right? It was, everybody was, how low could you go, front digs, rear digs, cutting brakes, everything that Jesse Haynes still has going on in his head on a daily basis was.
They were pretty awesome cars.
Oh yeah. That was just that was the day in, day out life back then, that late 99, 2000, then up until 2008, 2007, obviously the first King Hammers year, but it really kind of didn't take off till 08. And then it really took off in 09. But so there's about that decade there where crawling was the evolution. I mean, and the advancements that were made in rock sports were just in axle tech and steering tech and U-joint tech. And
everybody was pushing the limits of everything.
But but that said, y'all are still pushing the limits today. It's just much more expensive limits.
No kidding.
What was the first KOH that you attended?
So I missed the first year, the OG13, but I went the year after that.
Okay, so you were there in 08.
Yep.
And then what was your first year to compete?
They
blend together, huh? 13, 14, somewhere in there?
I think it was 13 or 14, yeah.
Yeah. Now, okay, I'm going to flash back a little bit since we're kind of talking in this era, in this genre. You and Cody Knoll, there's some contention here in story of how the story actually went. I've heard from, and Cody's memory is not that great. And your and it's not even that Cody's memory isn't that great. Your dad said it never happened. But that said, were you involved in this booby trap story from back in that era, 08, 09, 10, digging a booby trap off the start line?
So yes and no. I was there.
Okay.
But so we started digging the hole, and I was no help back then because I was 9 or so. I think there was only 2 shovels, and I don't remember if I was purposely filling in the hole or just I was that little help, but they kicked me out of there pretty quick. I don't even think they were finished digging the first little trench across the trail when I was kicked out of there.
Hilarious.
So I was there, but not there all at the same time.
And that's kind of what Cody said. Cody said, I think you were just kind of along for the ride. So I was like, guilty through association. And he's like, yeah, basically somewhere in there.
Not even fully.
Not even fully. So yeah, man. So your first year racing though, let's flash to that. So rough 2013, 2014. I think it was 2013 based on what I looked up, but I mean, our ability to keep good records and history in Ultra 4 is actually, it's very contingent on having a good website. and you know, with Ultra 4, there's been iterations. So, but before certain years, it's kind of hard to find information. So you have to go off almost context clues off of social media. So that said, that's why some of my information isn't always right. So I'm going with 2013. You raced in stock class, and you raced like a mid 80s 4Runner.
Yep, 86 4Runner.
And you finished?
No, not that year. The first year it was an 86 4Runner, and Big Rob, who's a tin bender.
Okay.
He rode with me that first race, and we were having issues breaking the torsion keys. And
gotcha.
We actually I don't believe we broke one in the main race, but we were taking it really easy, got into aftershock and lost steering. And I remember walking up to the pits and then taking forever to find the pits and then walking back that first race, and we just timed out.
But so you didn't finish that race, but that year you did do well in the national points in stock class. So your rookie season, you did pretty well. Like I want to say third.
I believe we did get third that year in points. That's
something else to be, barely legal to drive. I mean, little past that, and to go out and put down your rookie season, end up like third in the national point series in a nationally accredited syndicated race circuit. That's a feat, man. That's freaking kudos way back then.
It was a big learning curve. I remember the first time we went out to Hammers, I was still not great with the clutch, to the point that I was stalling out the truck on the trailer, pulling it off. And I was like, this is going to go sideways. I don't think I'm ready for this, but trial by fire, we went out there and just kept on moving, kept on swimming, and it all worked out, and great learning experience.
Right.
I was able to just keep going.
And at what point did Tom Dorfmeister start co-driving for you? Because he's your current co-driver.
So he rode with me the Hammers after that. And that was the year we did finish, but after time in the 4Runner. And then he didn't ride with me after that for a little bit, and got back in the car with me eventually, this later in the story, but when we got in the Trent Fab cars.
Gotcha. Okay. And this was, after spec cars, and we'll go into that here in a little bit. But so after spec cars, he ended up coming back into the fold. I was curious. I'd heard a funny story about you that, and confirm or deny or tell him I'm crazy, but that you have a tendency to fall asleep in the start line.
That has happened once or twice. There's been a couple times where Rusty, who lines us all up, has to come over and flick the side of my head on the start line once or twice. Yeah.
Now, is it, that's funny. It's confirmed true. But is that because you're that calm, or is it because you're just not getting enough sleep the night before and you're partying until the wee hours of the morning?
Definitely not the partying. It's actually funny. I feel like once I get strapped into the race car, everything just kind of goes away, and almost like a woo-saw feeling, and everything just gets relaxed, and that fall asleep a couple times on the start line because of it.
You find your center.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I'm the polar freaking opposite of that. I get in and you could pretty much say that I didn't need any coffee that morning. And if I'd had it, they'd be like, you drank a whole jug of it, like I'm fully amped up and just buzzing and itching and scratching and rechecking and checking and like playing with knobs and rechecking the window net and playing with the steering wheel, making sure it's connected, and then rechecking it because I messed with it once. Now I probably disconnected it. Oh man, total wreck. I don't think I get butterflies though. I don't get nervous. It's just a matter of
making sure everything's right. What's the thing that you forgot?
No, that's exactly it. It's exactly what got forgotten and will it bite us?
Yeah.
And then right about then you're like, oh, now I got to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
I do check the steering wheel because I have had that pop off before, and that's never a fun experience.
I've experienced that as well on Barstow, Maine. Yeah. Cruising.
That does not seem like a fun place for that to be experienced.
It certainly was not. Luckily, I didn't think anyone saw it. I got the steering wheel back on, got the car back under control. And then, I don't know, maybe a half hour later, some guys like way down by one end who'd seen it happen actually came down. We were out there with Wayne, and they came by and like, man, when you went by us and we saw that you had your steering wheel in the hand, we were like, oh man, that guy's out of control. He's crazy. And then Wayne and everyone else who were standing there looked at me, and I was like, yeah, the steering wheel came off. I mean, I thought I was totally going to play that off like cool, like it never happened. No, I fully got busted. Clown.
Yeah.
You let that happen once and you never let it happen again, I think is the way that works.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you want to repeat. Mine was, I hit a G out in the spec car and going to correct, and the steering wheel popped off. And was like, well, that's not a good time. And hit a bush or two, and it settled back down, and put it back in the steering wheel and made sure it was fully connected and kept on driving.
And away you go. So, man, I'm going to roll through a list here. This is kind of a litany, and it's going to be kind of almost rapid fire because you have a very, for such a young guy, you've been racing a lot of years in Ultra 4, and you have a very decorated list. But I'm going to roll through these really quick, and then you're going to have to tell me what year you kind of moved into the Trent Fab cars, and we'll talk about their involvement. But so 2014, you raced stock and you raced spec class, but you also raced Europe that year, which is, how cool is that? You raced like Portugal, Wales. I mean,
that first year I just raced Portugal and Wales, and that was a really amazing experience. That was in Axel Berman's old Bruiser chassis.
Okay.
So yeah, and that was really cool.
I mean,
to be able to go there.
Talking to Chris Bowler, he's lives in Wales now, and kind of that stuff there. I mean, their racing over there is, especially even back then, was one thing, but now today, Europe racing is really kind of taken off. Like I never really paid it a lot of attention until here the last probably 24 months or so. And there is a lot of racers over there building some really nice cars.
There's some really, really cool stuff over there. It kind of seemed like back then the technology was a year or two behind where we were out here, and they've just been catching up. And now it's to the point that I think the technology is all the same. They just need to fly Wayne over and get a couple of those last little touches, get the Wayne.
Chris Butler's building a new car for Levi Shirley. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty exciting to have, that you're having a Brit, building a car for a US guy. That seems like the reverse flow, but I'm sure
he makes some pretty great cars though. The Eurofighters are top notch.
Oh yeah.
Off-road Armory.
Yeah. Off-road Armory. Being in Houston, I'm in a port city, and knowing Levi basically, for 13 or 14 years now, they had shipped a car over for KOH one year. I know I've said this on the Talent Tank at some point way a long time ago, but yeah, I actually went down to the port and picked up one of Butler's cars and stored it at my shop for a little bit until Levi could get down here. So yeah, I've driven one, not raced one, driven one. And I've had it in my shop and had the chance to climb all over it and kind of look at it. And now people that don't know, well, they can look at them like the Gomez brothers cars, which are the UFO cars built by Joe Thompson, and how technologically advanced and Joe solves everything different ways than everyone else. Almost like he built the car, which is funny. The name him, his UFO Fab, right, out of this world or something, built of another world. That's kind of what I think about him. He doesn't build them in this world. And that's how I view Butler stuff. Butler creates kind of in a vacuum and he does it his way. And it's a different way to skin a cat. And it's really, really cool. And it works. And his stuff really works. So I can see why, Levi is stepping out, trying to make a change. We've seen, the Campbell cars all work a certain way. The UFO cars now work a certain way. So Levi's looking for a competitive advantage. Let's go get something that's built completely out in left field, or in this case, way out east, all the way across the pond. But yeah, Butler's building some stuff. It's some crazy cool stuff. And I think that's really awesome what's coming out of Europe. And that was cool that you've raced over there a bunch now since, but that first year, 2014, then 2015 was your first full year in spec cars. And all those spec cars at that point, they were all built by Randy Rod, Jimmy's 4x4, right? At that point?
Yep. So at that point, there were 6 of them, I believe, and they were all owned by my dad and was getting prepped by him, and just everybody was on an even playing field.
And there were some cool names in there too, like Ricky Johnson.
Yeah, Ricky Johnson.
Did Rob Mack ever drive a spec car?
I don't think so. Bradshaw did though.
Okay.
Damon Bradshaw. Jesse Combs. Yeah, she's probably the most notable spec car. She won a lot in that spec car, and finished a lot. I remember 2014 was my first race in it, and it was Tuella. And I remember getting around her, and that was like the highlight of the event. I was like, I just passed Jessie.
Yeah, right. And she's such a fierce competitor too. So
man, she was. I think the next corner she came in and undercut me, and we did a couple really good battles. It was a lot of fun.
That's a fun memory to have. Then by 2016, you moved up to Legends cars and racing 4,800, and you were in 4,800 for a while. I mean, you have a second place national title. You have a first place national title. When you started racing the 4,800, is that when you guys got involved with, you started racing fab cars?
So 16, we just took the spec car I raced the year before, and we put a 6.4 Hemi in it and raced it in Legends. So yeah, that was the year me and Rick Waterbury were battling for the championship, and he ended up pulling it out in front of me for that year. And yeah, that was a lot of good battles.
And then 2017, you guys went to Trent Fab, right? And then because I love this guy, I love telling stories about him or hearing stories about him too, working with DSI.
DSI is always a fun person to work with. He is difficult sometimes, but always in the best possible way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. He is, and I've called him this, so he's not going to be like, oh yeah, Wyatt just made that. No, I've called him this. I'm like, dude, you're a walking, talking off-road encyclopedia.
He is truly one of the most knowledgeable people. Like, just walking around, and it's like, what should this bolt be tacked to? Here. And where did this come from? Over here. And like, just literally, if you need to know something, he knows the answer to it.
Pulling part numbers just out of his ass. You're like, how do you know what that is? Well, I had it on a car. It was an S&M fab car. We built it in 2006, and that was the water pump that we used to fit around this tube. And that was a 163.724, whatever. And that's what you need for this car. I'm like, again, how do you know that? Like,
why do you remember that?
Yeah, yes. He's actually somebody I need to get on here because I have a good rapport with him. I think at one point, he didn't think I liked him, but it's probably because I cussed him, but it wasn't like I cussed him because I hated him. I cussed him because he was right most of the time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how it works, man. Then finally 2018, you moved up to 4,400 in 2018, right? You did,
yep.
did a few races there.
17, we won the championship in that Trent Fab car. And that was the old Crawl America car at that point. And then 2018, we stepped up in that same car into 4,400.
And just got your feet wet. You're playing with the big boys. And that's, in grand scheme of things, that's truly, that's 3 years ago. And so it's no surprise when people are like, well, Bailey qualifying second, he's finishing fifth. He just had a fourth place finish at King of the Hammers. It felt like he came out, I've had people ask me like, well, man, he came out of nowhere. How did he, no, man, he's paid his dues. He's in there, grudging it out with everybody else. He's he's really earning every single spot that he's got. It's not like he hasn't. He really truly has. So that's been really cool to see you move through that. But I want to touch on a long story. This is actually a very long story, probably. But you're a Baja 1000 champ.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. How cool is that? That was 2019. You guys racing, your dad, there's a bunch of guys involved in that, but the Savvy Gladiator, you took it to Baja, you raced 7 full.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through how did that come to be? How did that come to fruition that you guys were going to race that, and how you were going to do it, and who was driving and all that? And then some of the stories about that, because that was a long race.
Man, that one was a really long event. It started when Dan Fresh and my dad were driving all the races before. So the 500, the 250. And so they were racing up to that point. Dan Fresh got a ride in a 6100 truck in the 1000. And he had to take that opportunity because, I mean, who passes up on a spec trophy truck?
No one.
And no. So my dad was the solo driver for the 1000 in a 7F Jeep Gladiator, and that math doesn't quite add up. So he let me have the opportunity of driving, and Doug also drove the first bit. So Doug drove, then I drove, and then my dad did the last section.
What was your finish time, like hours you guys took on that?
It was a long one. I don't remember what the cutoff was. I think it was like 48 hours, and I think we finished in like 44.
I was going to say, I thought it was way, way up there. But that said...
actually, probably 29 hours, 30 hours.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. I don't know if 40 doesn't jive for me either, though. I'm with you there.
That was a little, but... It
was very, very long. But no, you guys ended up first in 7F, and you guys ended up champs of class. That was a crazy
achievement. It was awesome to be part of that team.
That'll make you a man right there. That much time. Yeah. I mean, lack of sleep, lack of everything. So what great stories? Tell me at least one great story that came out of that adventure.
Well, there's a few. First one would be we drove without steering for 7 of our 8 hours in the car. Our tie rod bolt, the nut on the tie rod, it came loose and it was hitting the bar above it. So it was loose the entire time we were driving, and did all of Matomi Wash, all of Diablo. We hit, I think, 90 going across Diablo with the steering a little loose, but we just went through the pit and it was fine. I think the nut was just starting to come loose there right when we were leaving the pit. And then, yeah, it came off not too far after that. And we just cruised in for 6-7 hours without a nut on that bolt and hoping the steering didn't fall apart.
Man, I saw the craziest picture from Baja this past weekend where the tie rod, the link from the tie rod somehow managed to, on the rear axle, on this, I think it was on a spec trophy truck as well. It inverted. The link came loose from the axle. It flipped up. And when the car came down, the Heim, the link, and drove through tubing. It went through multiple pieces of tubing next to the gas tank, went straight up and pierced it and stuck inside. And then the car came back down, and then it broke this tie rod link. It bent it in half in an L shape, but left it wedged where it ran through multiple pieces of, looked like 1 3/4 tubing, probably 188. Well, it was super impressive carnage, but that's what happens when you've got that much weight, basically a big old hammer driving down on a little nail. The nail was perfectly set up to run through the tube. So it went through the tube.
And I mean, hitting those whoops at 90 that they do, and it's a lot of force.
A lot of force. The way I feel about telling that story and you telling that story is kind of the way I feel about like Rob Usnick, who was on, last season, to him talking about his son, him racing Nora and his son winning Nora based on that, and being able to share that with his son. So you and your dad being able to share this champion thing is, it's pretty damn bragworthy.
It was really cool. And then I believe right after that was the national championships race. And we were the first father-son team, I believe, to finish first in 2 different classes there.
Oh yeah, because your dad raced that. He raced 4,800 or stock. I can't remember which one.
He raced 4,500.
4,500. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And then he did very well.
Yep. And then I was able to go out, and that was 2019 again, and that was my second championship in Legends.
Now, this year, like I said, we touched on it early on that you ran, fourth at KOH.
Yep.
Now, how did your race effort that day go? Clearly, to end up fourth, you had to have had a clean, good day. But did you hit all your marks? Did your strategy work out? What were the pitfalls, the failures that hampered you that day?
So that was already a busy week up to that point, because that was one of the times I partnered with another driver, and me and Cameron Steele actually partnered that whole week. So we raced Legends and UTV together. So it was a pretty busy week going into that.
And his deal was he was going to handle the desert loop, and you were going to handle the rock loops, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I talked to him out at Lasertown, because he was kind of, headquartered out of Lasertown, and we talked multiple times throughout the week because I was there out at Lasertown every day. But man, he had nothing but the best of things to say about racing with you. He was very happy about how that was working out. Did that work out good for you?
He is amazing to work with. He is just incredibly nice person to work with, and incredibly talented. Wants everything to be set up right, and meticulous, but in a good way. Like,
oh, he's serious.
Wants to hit all the points. Yeah, it was professional, which was really, really cool to work with.
He didn't slam a beer and get in the car.
Nope, there was no slamming beers and getting in cars.
No, he was cool in the sense that how serious he was. I would be out at Lasertown, as the sun is coming up, and he and I would be coming in together. I would get the gate for him, or then the next day he'd get the gate for me as we were coming in there. And just having that kind of in passing conversation. And I've, really looked, from years ago, Pab on, Race Desert, and then, just following the trackers and following racing, and you get to know his name, and then you see him on TV as an announcer. But it's another story when you kind of, us guys from the East Coast show up at these West Coast events, and these guys are just kind of walking around. So to be able to have conversations with him, and he has a pretty badass Raptor, no getting around that. And actually Cody Wagner, he has a pretty badass Raptor as well. Well, I'm there in this, my pretty badass Chevy pre-runner, and Cameron's like, man, that thing's pretty sick, man. And I'm like, yeah, I sent you an email about trail emissions. You should let me come sometime. He goes, yeah. And then away we went. That was how the day started. But I'm trying to bury that one in his ear, because I want to come down and do that. But yeah, that was Cam. He meets a lot of people, right? A lot of people meet him, and just like you, Bailey, a lot of people meet you. But it's when you kind of have that commonality when you meet another guy, and then you see like, oh, this guy's got a pretty sick truck, and he's into the same shit I am. Wow, we have this. I'm gonna call it like unagi. Like all of a sudden, they all of a sudden become cooler, not because of what they have, but because their mind wavelength works a lot like your mind wavelength. You're into the same stuff.
That shared stuff in common.
Yeah, and then tribal knowledge about that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that
100%.
That goes a long ways. So racing for you, though, you've been involved in off-road your entire life, and we all know who your father's Dave Cole, but exclusive to that, racing has opened up some pretty cool doors for you, and even just in the simple sense of meeting Pab, but meeting guys like Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, I've been really lucky, and actually the first desert racer I was able to partner with was Rob McCachran, and
literally the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, he was insane, and just a great person to work with too. And we raced back in, I think that was 2014, and yeah, pretty early on, and we were racing a Razor together out at Hammers, and neither one of us had finished Hammers up to that point. And that was, he did the desert, I did the rocks, and we were able to finish. And it was both of our first times finishing at Hammers. So that was pretty cool.
No, I mean, let's talk. I don't want the magnitude of that lost on anyone, because it's blowing my mind. You're 17 years old. You're splitting driving duties with Rob Mack.
Yeah, that's still crazy to me. Just the people I've met along this journey has been insane. And
well, let me put this a different way. It's 2040. It's 20 years from now. Rob Mack, he's not in the old folks home yet, but he's not racing anymore. He's putting around. He's got his pre-runner. He's still hitting his spots, hanging out, probably drinking beers. And he's like, Bailey Cole, man, did you see he just won, the all-world national championship last year? I raced with him when he was 17 years old. Can you guys believe that? And all the other folks, the old folks home, are going to be like, you don't know that kid. You're like 60 years older than him. Right?
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Knock on wood. Don't let me jinx you. All right. You're pretty serious though, from what I've been told, when it comes to your race prep and doing your homework. And I want to talk about, this 2020 KOH and how you pulled it off and your strategy. We kind of got a little sideways talking about what, teaming up with Pab earlier in the week and how that worked. But let's talk about the 4,400 race. Did it go the way you expected it to go for you?
Yeah, I think I still didn't really know exactly what I was getting into at the start of that Hammers. So I know early on into the race, I felt like I wasn't pushing quite as hard as I should have been and picked it up throughout the day. And we had a couple small hiccups here and there, but hitting all of our points, we stayed in contention all day. We were top 5 all day long. So I would say it was everything I hoped to achieve going out there the first time.
How much pre-running do you do out there, considering you grew up? So you almost are the, somewhat of a Randy Slauson for the Hammers. It's like the back of your hand. Where the rocks, where rocks have been hanging out of XYZ trail for 20 years and not to go around it tight because you'll slash the tire there. Kind of have this, I'm going to repeat again, tribal knowledge of the Hammers that plays in, right?
Oh, definitely. There's some corners that we go around and it's like, I remember going off this in the Samurai and there's a big hole on the other side of that. And yeah, definitely wheeling out there from when I was little definitely plays into it. It's kind of funny. So Cam was supposed to drive the first desert laps and I was driving the rock laps for all the other classes. And I didn't really get to pre-run the first lap much. And Cam had an issue at Cougar Buttes in the Legends race and car was broken and done there. He ripped out the links, just came down on a rock wrong and had a failure. Dave Schneider, coming back to him, was racing modified.
To DSI, yeah.
DSI, yep. And he was not feeling well. He was a little sick and under the weather there. He had some pneumonia going on and came into the first pit where I was going to hop back into the Legends car, but the Legends car was done. So I was just standing there and he was like, well, do you want to drive the car this first lap? And I was like, sure. And I got in for him, brought the car around, and that was actually my pre-run lap for the desert for that week.
Oh, very cool. I mean, it's good having a relationship. Again, relationships with DSI always end up paying off.
Oh, right? 100%.
Yeah. Yep. And he's won a lot. He's the turtle, the tortoise and the hare stories. He's the tortoise. He's the tortoise.
He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I haven't talked about that guy in a while, but I did see him at the Hammers and we did talk. It was daytime and he did mention that he had been under the weather. He might've had COVID back then. I mean,
it's possible. There's coming back from SEMA. I know me and my dad got sick and who knows what was going on back then.
The Chinese flu, man, all the Chinese that came over for SEMA, right? They were there to knock off savvy bumpers and that's, yeah. And there go all my sponsor dollars from any Chinese company. Yay. Right.
All goes out the window right about now.
So I do have some questions for you around, and I've asked other guys this, but when we talk about some of the drama that has happened, certainly some of it happened at Moab, but I want to even take it back to Hammers. When we talk about like course markings and course width, how do you feel, where do you weigh in on the course width? And is that something that needs to be in a driver's book, or do you believe it is something that each race that should come out during the driver's meeting about where the course is 50 feet wide, or you need to stay in the 2-track, or you need to stay in the bottom of the canyons, or it's 150 each way. You have some liberty in finding the fast line, and that's on you, basically like it is on Baja.
I think as an organization, I always thought it was 50 feet to each side of the track. I thought that was already in the rules.
It's not.
Just found out recently as well that it wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either. The way I look at it, I can't really do anything that's deemed unreasonable or cheating. So I try to stick within the rules. I've definitely found corners that I can shave a corner here, off there, corner there, but all definitely within reason.
And along those lines, does Tom pretty much, keep you in check on that, because he's running the show there on where you're going?
We're definitely a team on that. So one of the biggest things I've learned, and Hammers this year was not a good showcase because I didn't get to pre-run quite as much as I wanted, but I like to literally walk every single course. Like the Reno course, every year that we go out there, I walk it. Tennessee this year, I walk it just to literally see every rock and know exactly where we're going.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, to handicap KOH 21, you think it happens?
I certainly hope so.
I certainly hope so too, but I don't think anyone knows, but catch you off guard there. See your take on it. Your face was like, oh, it better, Do you believe there's a reluctance in drivers to throw the red card?
I would think so. I mean, me personally, I think a lot of the racing is done out on the track, and I'd like to think most of us all respect one another enough to not blatantly do something bad. And if they do, call yourself out on it. So my perspective is, if I beat you out on the track, I beat you out on the track. And if not, don't be that guy. I know some drivers have thrown red cards in the past, but yeah,
I think they're few and far between. I don't know. I'm not a current driver, so I don't know if I have a legitimate take on it.
I really think it kind of comes back to, we all know each other. We all hang out in the pits, and I feel like we all have that respect for one another. Like, I don't want to get something over on Lauren or Jason or any of the drivers out there, and I don't think they want to get anything over on me. So just go out there and do what we do.
Do you think the red cards can be used or utilized? You are calling out another driver, but in part holding the organization accountable?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's been times where red cards have gotten a situation handled.
Right. No, I think that's it. And that's where I was kind of going, was it feels like we really just you don't see them very often. I know because of exactly that. There's a respect, right? There's this, you don't want to be that guy, right?
Yeah,
because
it's kind of like the same as when I went into the water at Crandon. Literally every single Ultra4 racer gave me a part or a fluid and got me back out on track the next day. We all want to beat each other at the best of our game and win under those circumstances, not cutting corners and not trying to.
They'll give you the shirt off their back if it means that they can beat you on course versus beat you in the pits, right? Yeah, and that's why we love what we love. That's why we hang out with who we hang out with, and race against who we race against, because of exactly that camaraderie.
Yeah.
And then those same guys, in the very exact breath, they will hand you a life jacket or a buoy or throw you a lifeline or
100%.
Or, I mean, there's a shortage of water wings on Amazon already because Santa has been buying them to put in your stockings.
I'm waiting for the giant unicorn to be strapped to the roof of the car.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah.
It will probably happen. You're going to go out there and, there next to your Ultra4 tag chassis bracelet, there's going to be a water wing, wrapped around there. Yeah. Inflatable. Uh-huh. Oh man. Hilarious stuff, man. So I want to talk about team effort and your partners and your sponsors. And, I know there's some guys that have a hand in your car. I want to talk about them because I believe in supporting them. Also the guys that, totally stripped your car down after Crandon in that 2-week period and totally flipped it back to Moab. I believe, this is a platform that, I can afford to you guys as drivers and as co-drivers and whatever, but I'm going to just hand over the reins to you to talk about your team and kind of your sponsors and how, and I mean this in sponsors in the sense that they are your partners. These guys are, like Neil over at Yukon and Tom at Spider Tracks, and what they mean to you and your abilities to put that car out on the field and out on the starting grid. And then, man, your team effort behind it, man. Bailey, I'm just going to hand it over to you. I know you've got a lot to say there.
To start with, like Tom at Spider Tracks, even more than just helping us, all of us out with building some amazing parts. I know we've sat down in the past a couple times and he's told me to just stay who you are and don't really change where you're going, if that makes sense. Like, don't change who you are to get to someplace. Just stay true to who you are as a person and things will work out. So I've always kind of respected that from Tom and the level of personality he brings into the sport. Like, he walks around every race and takes pictures of all the cars and shakes hands with everybody and is just an amazing person to be around.
That he is.
And similar story with Neil from Yukon. Actually, the year I was stepping into Legends car from the spec cars, he sat down with me and was like, okay, I like you right now, but you're not really doing a whole lot the marketing side. And I think that has to step up in order to become more professional. And he's over the years helped me become a more well-rounded racer. Like, it's not just always what you do out on the track. You also have to support those who support you, if that makes sense.
No, that's exactly spot on.
Those two people have really helped me out, not only as being an amazing part sponsor and partner in that way, but being a good people to be around as like mentors.
You certainly picked two really good ones. I mean, like I said, I have nothing but great things to say about Tom at Spider Tracks. I don't know Neil at Yukon, but I do know what I've seen. They've always had logos on your car, and I know that from my experience with Tom and Ross, I need to throw Ross in there too at Spider Tracks.
Definitely Ross.
You got to throw Ross in there. What they've done is, even with COVID, I mean, their ability to provide customer service and provide support and provide just badass parts that work. You just can't go wrong with them. I like I said, I do believe that exactly. Support those that support you, and they are really good supporters. But your personal team, the guys that are helping field your car, the guys that are helping get your car to the starting grid and help you get that car across the finish line, they've done some amazing things, certainly in the last month with that car. You're racing a Trent Fab IFS car, and what they've been able to do to make that thing get from one race and in short course trim after it, and they didn't paint it yellow to be Yellow Submarine.
I hope it was not the Yellow Submarine, but yeah, my entire team did an insane amount of work. I have Travis Brake, who used to help out Derek West a lot and has been in the industry for years and years. He's been my crew chief starting this year, and he's done a ton to help. He makes sure that everything stays on track and has been phenomenal. One of the true reasons that keep making finishes at the races. I have Chad and Derek, and they're coming over and doing fabricating stuff, and they've been helping. They're building my dad's new Centurion and just helping out.
What's a Centurion?
So the Centurion is the 4-door Bronco.
Okay. Yeah.
Old 4-door Bronco.
Okay.
It's an F350 frame with a Bronco body on it.
Yeah, I know.
I believe. I
do know what that looks like. It's like the Texas limo.
Yes, 100%. It is 3 miles long.
So what he probably doesn't want us talking about it. Can we talk about it? Maybe. I think so. Is it just going to be like a street cruiser, or is he like truly caging it and all that jazz?
No, it's a full-on pre-runner. So I think it's fine to talk about. Building, the Centurion. And so Derek used to work at Bomber, and Chad used to work at UFO. So they are some amazing fabricators. And spoiler alert, they hoping in the future to build a car after they get done with the Centurion. but the Centurion is a 4-door Bronco, putting trophy truck trailing arms on it, solo front beam suspension.
Okay.
And yeah, going full awesome pre-runner.
So compared to your dad's current Bronco pre-runner, is it very similar or is it leveled up and just longer?
I would say it's a pretty big upgrade.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. I'm excited. What does he have a paint scheme for it yet? Is it
not quite that far, still in the building process, but it's going to have like air conditioning. It's going to be the ultimate desert limo, 4 seats. Coolers in between both seats, front and rear.
Beer and ice cream. I like where this is going. I like where this is going. All right. I need to start texting your dad on a more regular basis so I can reserve myself a seat.
So that's Chad and Derek, and they definitely helped put the car back together. Chad was there the entire 2 weeks, and Derek actually drove out the new motor and new trans from California the week before Moab and helped install it and get it stabbed in.
Well, I have some questions about that. So what do you do? We actually didn't talk about that. We talked about you going in underwater. We talked about the car taking a bath. I saw some amazingly hilarious videos of you extracting it. I think you taking your fire suit off, you're in your skivvies. I mean, like red underwear, your ass is in the air and you're riding the car out. And, somebody's playing like flute music, like they'd overlaid it with like some TikTok music and it from like
Titanic music, I think, with like a flute.
But it wasn't like classical Titanic music. It was like, It was like
bad Titanic.
It was terrible. And I couldn't stop laughing. I bet I watched it 13 times. So you recovered the car, you race it the next day. What?
Yep.
No problems. What, I would think that, were you able to kill it? So I didn't ask, did you kill the car or it kill itself? What happened?
So I didn't think I killed the car. And then actually it's funny, Chad and Sean, who I was about to talk about, look back at the videos and they noticed I reached for the kill switch right as I hit the water and got the motor back to CBM not too long ago. And he said the internals of that motor were actually fine. So it managed to not drink water.
Amazing. Yeah. Like I'd be worried about like the electrical connections and all that jazz. And so what do you guys do? Did you even, change all the fluids and gave her a look over it, fired up and you're good to go?
Yep, we use Motec and American wire harness, and all of them held up great. It stayed on the entire time while it was underwater. So that's actually how I was able to find it when I had to wade back out into the water and hook the chain to the car.
Yeah, all the headlights were on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man. Wow. So when they tore down the car, what were they looking for before you went to Moab?
We made the call because just to be safe to change the motor and trans. And yeah, CBM got us a new motor. Awesome working with Josh out there.
Josh West, right? Josh West. Yeah.
Josh West. Yep. And Chris at Maximum Transmission got us a transmission. It was actually an old spec car transmission that just rebuilt and sent out the door.
Hey, that works. Whatever gets the job done. Yeah, man. Yep. And then they banged it out though. I mean, to take a car that's been underwater, strip it all the way to that level, rebuild everything, and then show up, let's call it 10 days later in Utah is a freaking feat. Those guys are heroes, right? They walk on water. They don't sleep.
100%. Yeah, no, they are superhuman. The crew is just fantastic. Couldn't do it without them. 100%.
And now, I talked to Josh, we've talked about this in the past, Josh West over at CBM. We talk about like the value of like tuning, and that's just motor tuning. I've talked to other guys like Phil Accardi, who would have been on a recent Talent Tank, where we talked about his, tuning suspension. And then we talk about you and your time at school and your time to be able to actually put into tuning the car for stuff. How much time have you been able to dedicate and how much value do you put in tuning and getting it right? Like, are you an 80% or an 85 or a 90%er, or are you like, no, I'm going to spend days and days and days to get every last ounce of tune out of it where I like the suspension, where I like it? Where are you at on that? Because it's a weight, right? There's a returns to effort, So
I definitely lucked out. and I know Wayne very well. We actually,
he raised
my
you kind
family and his, we spend every Christmas dinner together, and working with him has been phenomenal because he is truly just the best. Then we have spent probably 5-6 days on just the IFS car, and the Legends car we spent probably more than that. I definitely think putting the effort in before the race is more important than what you do at the race, because you can only do so much at the race.
And that goes back to my philosophy that you win the race in the shop.
100%.
Don't get me wrong. During the race, absolutely a 60-cent seal in the transmission can take you out. Or, I mean, those are freak accidents. They happen to everybody, but by and large, I mean, everyone who has won King of the Hammers knows what it takes, and it takes, some luck, but it takes a lot of prep, and it takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of homework, and then it takes hitting your marks and hitting your plan. And then the luck is other guys not hitting their marks. It's not luck. It's truly you're hoping that someone else messes up when you don't.
Yeah, no, the racing's getting so competitive now. Like Moab, I felt like I was on a pretty solid pace the entire day. We had a sway bar go out, which cost us a few minutes, but we had to push all day, and that course was brutal. And you just have to do that now because the level of competition has gotten to a point where everybody's pushing the entire time. So you have to.
How many tires did you kill at Moab?
None.
Oh, nice. Because it seemed like every single time I looked at the live feed, there was cars coming into that main pit with right side flats. It was like one after another after another. It's just like, so yeah, you lucked out, man. Well done.
That is one thing that I've been ingrained to do, is not get flats, because you're not winning races by sitting in the pits. So that's one part where I feel like I'm a pretty solid driver, is just keeping the tires under the car and driving those to what their ability is. Like, we didn't have a flat at Tennessee. We had a slow leak at Hammers, but got us to the pits with it still inflated. And yeah.
Hey, that's a solid win right there. If you can change it in the pits, that's 5, 7, 10 minutes ahead. That's a big place.
I actually thought there was something loose up front, like in the steering or something, because it just kind of felt wallowy because it was just getting low on pressure. I think we pulled in the pits and it was at like 10 PSI, still holding air. I think I just caught a rock wrong coming down resolution.
And caught it right there at the end. Ha.
Yep.
Well, man, as we kind of start to move towards the wrap here, I want to talk about sponsorships and being young, and kind of we talked about what you've done and how many years you have racing. Has your ability to walk in the door and have sponsor conversations been, in your mind, easy or hard or difficult? And I know I think even before the camera started rolling and before we started recording, you even mentioned that you're not a big public speaker. So I'm like, man, just treat this as just you and I having a conversation, but going in and asking and pitching yourself, because at this point, when you're talking to Yukon or you're talking to Tom at Spider Tracks, and other people and other companies, as you've trying to get to the point where you are a professional race car driver and you're trying to make your program stand on its own 2 feet, right? You want to be cash flow positive, and, to where the race car's paid for, the prep's paid for, all your gas is paid. You want to get to that point, right? That's the ultimate goal. And you can earn a living doing it. Guys like what Lauren Healy's doing, you want to get to that point, right? I believe that's your ultimate.
A great place to be. Yeah.
That's when I look at Bailey Cole's big boy job, once you graduate college, is that you want to do this full time if you can. So you've got to work on, your public speaking, but I think you're really good at it. I mean, I know you have your doubts, but I think you're good at it. I think you step up to it. You've certainly had some good mentors and good folks around you to help you there. But when you are having these sponsor conversations, have they been very receptive to you? Or what has been kind of your hurdles in, one, talking to sponsors, but two, getting them to, loosen the purse strings?
So I feel like the biggest lesson I've learned over the years is not going at sponsors at what they're going to give to me. It's more of what you can give to them, because it's a partnership. It's not a sponsorship. You have to both get something out of the relationship. You have to both get net positive.
Right. Sage advice right there from such a young guy, 23 years old, sage advice. No, that's, I think exactly that. You hit the nail on the head. And that is, and I've heard Brad Lovell describe this, is it's their partnerships with guys in companies I want to be in business with for the long term. I'm not worried about today or tomorrow or the next race. I'm worried about 5 races from now. I'm worried about 10 races from now. I'm worried about 5 years from now, that these guys are still people that I still want to, that I'm comfortable putting their junk on my car and running their sticker on my car because I'm running the best parts that I feel I can put on there. And that's just from a part standpoint. Now, when you start carrying, which your dad did an amazing job this year. This is really, in my opinion, bringing in like Progressive Insurance. I've always felt like Ultra4, what we've sucked at, drivers, promoters, all of us at the whole off-road industry, we've sucked getting out of the industry. We've sucked attracting outside dollars. And to see like the Ultra4 organization bring in Progressive, you can say, yeah, well, they're automotive because they insure cars. No, they're not automotive. That is an insurance company, and they are in the insurance industry. And so if you can attract outside money and then say, well, they brought in Polaris. Well, Polaris is still sponsor, or Can-Am and, whoever it is. Well, no, they're still in the truly automotive. They have a car that has a brand on it that can leave the start line, then they're not. I mean, even Ford as an example, I kind of put Ford kind of in Jeep, kind of half in, half out, right? They're automotive. They're not really racing, but their support means legitimization of everything. So I get that. So your experience has been with outside the industry. You've had a lot of luck inside the industry. Outside the industry, have you been in a situation to look for outside the industry money yet?
I've looked a little bit, not super hard yet, but definitely towards where I'm going.
Good. Yes. Good. I think that's all we asked for. So as we kind of, I don't want to go too far deep into the sponsorship conversation just because I know some things and I don't want to bait you too hard. That'd be really mean of me. You'd be like, damn it, Wyatt. But anyway, so you've got about a year until you graduate. We've kind of talked about, the future after graduation, this, and I'm using the term big boy job because that's what you put on your questionnaire was my big boy job, what it's going to be when I'm an adult, and when I'm finally adulting, which I think you're doing a good job now. But you put in something there that I was kind of really surprised at, and I shouldn't have been, was maybe branching out to other series. Elaborate on that for me. What's kind of going on in your head there? What intrigues you? What interests you? What's piqued your curiosity?
Nothing set in stone or anything, but had a ton of fun. I chased my dad at 3 of the races last year at the Score races and raced the final one within the 1,000. And it was a lot of fun and just a different style of racing. Yeah, it's just a different headspace that you have to go into and different preparation. Okay. So I think that's a fun aspect to go to. So if I could get into some more of either the desert side or really any kind of race in it.
Helmet time, visor time, there's no replacement.
Racing shopping carts down a hill. It's all the same thing, right?
We can set that up. I know some people, they can probably get us a time slot during Hammers Week and we can do it down back door. Shopping carts down back door.
That is a lot of commitment.
Literally, we're going to get United Healthcare to sponsor it. Insurance competition, and we're going to call it the copay downhill. I got it. I'm totally marketing. I'm a genius.
I'll let you pitch that one to my dad, and I'll be outside of the room.
Oh no, your dad would love it. He would absolutely be like, I will definitely watch it. You're not doing it during Hammers Week, but I'll definitely be there to watch it any other time.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So you've alluded to you're probably going to be having a new car built, coming up in the near future. Pretty excited about that. I'm pretty excited about the couple guys that they're working on your dad's Centurion and that they're going to be looking at punching out a car for you. That's pretty awesome, which leads me to my question. What are your thoughts on the next big steps in Ultra4 that Ultra4 takes? Where do you think it goes? And it could be, this is totally wherever you want to go with this. Is it tech? Is it on the cars? Is it at the series? Is it tracks? Is it sponsorship marketing? What do you think the next big thing is for Ultra4?
I personally think the next biggest thing is getting more sponsorship buy-in to the race teams and all of the racers getting to a level of professionalism where we can sell ourselves to those bigger budget sponsors. And a lot of teams are doing it now. Like Levi Shirley's been fantastic at it. And obviously Lauren, and there's a lot of names now that are getting to that professional level where we can really start selling ourselves as more than just friends going out and going really fast on the weekends and pushing that way. And I think that's the biggest step, because I mean, last year, I know through the first 30 miles of the desert race, 30 miles of the Hammers race, Jason Shear was faster than the trophy trucks. And I feel like
it says something, doesn't it?
We have the speed and the technology now in the cars where we can push pretty hard for a long period of time. And I feel like the cars are at a place where we're finding seconds now instead of minutes. And I feel like the sponsorships coming up is where the next big step is.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I remember Jeff Knoll, co-founder of the Hammer series with, or at least King Hammers, the race individually with your dad. We were in a chase truck, his truck. I don't remember what we were in, but I feel like we were in his truck. Him telling me about one of his goals was he wanted to get the series to where you could walk into, at the time Toys R Us was a thing, right? It wasn't out of business, but so let's just say Target. We'll change the story. It was Target or Walmart. You walk in the toy section and you could buy, next to the GI Joes would be Ultra4 driver little toys. Like you could walk in and buy a Bailey Cole, or you could buy a Jason Shearer, or you could buy a JT Taylor, just be like a bald GI Joe guy, right?
Yeah.
It looked like the same guy. But yeah, that was where Jeff thought, he thought that's where we could drive the sport, would be to the point where not only was it a common household name, but that there was toys. And I remember a guy named, you may have to help me, Tonka Todd. What's Todd's last name? He has an Ultra 4 car. He has it was the IFS 4400 car. And gosh,
yeah,
dang,
it's the bomber. The IFS bomber.
The IFS bomber car. Why am I drawn on? He lives in Park City, Utah. Great guy, really tall guy, desert guy. But he had a Tonka toy as a Class 1 that you could buy. You could walk into Walmart and buy a white desert Class 1 that was so cool. And it was Todd Romano.
Yes.
Why was I drawing a blank on it? Yeah, because I do that.
You can buy an Ultra 4 car at, I think, Walmart, right?
The low-C the crawler, right? The Cody Wagner.
Rocky.
Oh yeah, you can bribe Rocky. Wow. Uh-huh. See? And there you go. That's why having Von Gittin Jr. in the Ultra 4 stable is, he is a quintessential marketer that we all have a lot to learn from that guy. Cody Wagner's car just came out in RC. Mm-hmm. It's $400 or something. I should have probably priced one out. I've literally looked at it and been like, I don't want to know the price because then I want one, because they're pretty cool. And then we've had Randy Slauson has had RC bombers out for 5 years or 6 years.
Years now, right?
Yeah, for a long time. So no, that's cool. That is cool. That the cars, of course, the cars are characters in our series. They absolutely are. They are in our family, in our community. They are characters in, they have names like, the Red Dragon, the Dragon Slayer, things along those lines. But we haven't got to the point where we have little caricatures. We haven't had, what we need is, we need a Bailey Cole bobblehead. See?
Do I get floaties with it, or? Yeah,
absolutely. He's wearing water wings. No, and it's an inflatable unicorn donut. Like you're wearing it around your waist, right? And then, I think there's like I said, there's a lot of JT jokes in there too. Like we'd have the JT bobblehead, but it's like the head is the same size. Like it's just, oh, he's going to kick my ass. Oh man, I love it. When I can't wait for him to be listening to this. He'll be in middle of BFE nowhere, windshield time, and going somewhere to a race, and he will call me and be like, I'm going to kill you. I know where you live.
Yeah, he's pulled the knife on me a couple of times. That's
well, hey, did we cover everything you wanted to cover? Did we make it through? I think we hit the punch list pretty hard.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. We went quite a while too, man. That's awesome. Especially considering I don't really know you very well. We really knocked it out, but as we go to sign off, I'm going to drop a bomb here. You have some really big news coming up in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, there is some really exciting gears turning here.
So
as we speak, honestly, everything's changing on the daily, but some really big things planned for next year.
And if I heard, it's like not one item, but it's like multiple items, all for 2021.
Yep. A lot of things coming down the pipeline here pretty soon.
And so you think we'll know, what do you think? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, pay attention.
I would say right around the time Nationals is going on, we should have more word on what's coming out.
Oh man, those are some good carrots. I'm going to have to tune in, man. Bailey, you've been an amazing individual to watch as a kid playing in the pits up through young adulthood, your driving, your prowess, how you have developed as a human, how you've developed as a racer, how you've developed as a patron of Ultra4 and something of I don't know what the right word is, just a spokesman for the sport. I know a lot of us, look at you and like, man, I remember when he was this young, and now we're seeing you on podiums, and just a very just a great representative of the community. It's really cool to see you carry that torch in the way that you've carried it. Thank you so much for coming on the Talent Tank and agreeing to talk to me and tell your story and introducing Mackenzie and all that, man. I really value your buy-in to my program, man.
I appreciate being here. Thank you. Thank you for telling all the stories of everybody in our sport and letting us all grow in that way.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Bailey Cole, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we are out and bye.
Thank you for listening and taking a dive into the Talent Tank. Please like and subscribe on Instagram @The Talent Tank or our website, thetalenttank.com.